Ladies and gentlemen, the unthinkable has happened. I have the logo on the screen. I fixed it. I don't know how. I've changed things around. I think I got it to work. Please, if any other bench sports people are listening, the logos are officially working. I believe. I don't know how consistent it's going to be, but it's working. This is Not That It Matters with Max Miller. And back on Wednesdays after a couple Wednesdays off, as I have found a permanent Wednesday co-host. You may know him from last week. This is none other than Pleasanton, born and raised just like me, Adam Jew. Adam, did you win your baseball game this past weekend? If you had one, the Giants made 70 wins. We had Cyril Gahn just absolutely dominate Derek Lewis, which we discussed. And we have a little bit of a new fold today. We have our way too early NFL predictions because there's nothing going on. But did you win the baseball game? That's if you had one, of course. Adam, how are you?
I'm doing, I got to be honest. I didn't have a very good night's sleep last night, so I'm a little groggy, but I'm still here. Not that it matters, but I'm still here. But yeah, we had a baseball game today or on Sunday in the city. Unfortunately, we lost. We actually got crushed. Honestly,
Oh, no.
It wasn't a very good performance.
Oh no.
But on to the next game. In better news though, the Giants are still the best team in baseball. They are still winning amazingly. Yesterday was another victory, amazing classic
journey.
Giants torture victory. Yeah. So thank you, Chris Bryant, our Lord and Savior. And the UFC event on Saturday was another fantastic one. It wasn't the best card, but it was a very underrated card, and it performed to the fullest. So the weekend overall was great. The Giants are still winning. I couldn't be happier despite my grogginess today.
Hey, it's all good. Last time I did a show groggy, I found out afterwards my grandpa was not going to make it through the night. But we do it in favor of him. He's looking down on us. We're good. I'll carry you through this. I got you, Adam. But let's talk about UFC 265. Look, Derek Lewis is a big, heavy fighter. I mean, so you can be 206 pounds to 245 pounds, 246 pounds, in a heavyweight division in the UFC. Derek Lewis weighs in at 245 and a half pounds. He is half a pound short of the limit in heavyweight. He is not known for his grappling. He is not known for his technique. He is known for his power. And I know you know this. Cyril Gahn, who was up and coming, 9-0 coming into the fight, came into Derek Lewis's hometown of Houston, Texas, and dominated. I think Derek Lewis had a total of 15 strikes in total and was TKO'd in the third round at 4-11. Yeah, total strikes from Derek Lewis. He hit 16 out of 37. For reference, Cyril Gahn had 136 strikes and hit 82% of them for 112 hit. Now, look, I would have loved to see Derek Lewis in a belt. He's one of the most entertaining fighters if he wins a fight in general because he's just a one-punch king. But we all know that this was not a real title. It was the interim title, but it didn't even feel like it was, he's got a belt. It was, okay, he's going to fight the winner of John Jones, Francis Ngannou. But give me your thoughts on the main event of Derek Lewis, Cyril Gahn before we get into some of the other awesome fights in the card.
Yeah, it kind of goes to show how Cyril Gahn showed how good he is in the octagon. It showed his technique. He's just an amazing fighter. We've never seen anything like this in the heavyweight division before. So technical, so quick. He moves like a middleweight. And we all were hoping, or at least the Houstonians and a lot of Derek Lewis fans, which there are a lot of, were hoping for, that one punch knockout from Derek Lewis. It seemed like Derek Lewis was, playing chicken a little in the first round, but in the end, he was hurt the entire time. You saw the leg kicks. You saw just picking apart, even in the first round, that jab to Derek Lewis's, I believe it was his right eye. That one punch, he thought it was an eye poke, but it wasn't. It was a clean, closed fist. Yeah, it was a clean jab, but that really hurt him, and that shows Cyril Gahn's power. We talk about how he could be a boring fighter and all that, but it showed that he also has that power. Derek Lewis doesn't have the best chin. Not the most technical fighter, but still to knock a heavyweight down like that, it goes to show that Cyril Gahn has power, skill, technique. His Muay Thai is great. His ground and pound, it showed. It was an overall great performance. It was a flawless performance by Cyril Gahn, and I actually cannot wait. Just another hype fight, Cyril Gahn versus Francis Ngannou, and if that takes place in France, where both of them are from, that would be an epic super fight, and I cannot wait.
That would be an awesome fight. Now, we touched on two other fights last Friday. And that was the Jose Aldo fight and the Pedro Munoz fight, but also the Michael Chiesa and Vincent Luque fight. And look, you and I were both very excited about the Michael Chiesa Vincent Luque fight. And we talked about last week as well with Michael Chiesa, all of his wins have either come from submission or decision. Luque was more well-rounded. Now, this fight ended the first round via submission, and you would think with me saying that, not knowing the result, that Michael Chiesa, who's a submission king, would get the win. You would be incorrect. The submission win came from Vincent Luque in round one, and I honestly was so, this fight was awesome. I thought it was action packed. It was technical. It was and for Vincent Luque to get the rear naked choke, I believe is what it was.
Yeah,
after blocking two attempts and then just reversing Michael Chiesa in his own game to lock in and get him to tap out was awesome, because you could hear the crowd go like, whoa, and everybody took a step back because nobody saw that coming, and it was such a clean reversal. It was a pretty awesome fight, and even though it only lasted one round, I thought honestly this was one of the fights of the night because of that reversal.
Yeah, Chiesa has been submitted before in his career, so he's not invulnerable to it, but he is known for his grappling. He's known for his wrestling. He took Luque down. Luque's a strong guy, and his takedown defense is pretty good, but he took Luque down in the first round. But I think what really got to him was he underestimated Luque's ground game, because he's known for his power. He's known for his stand and bang. So when he tried to go for the rear naked choke, he got a little sloppy, which resulted in Luque reversing it into a Darce choke and getting him in the first round, which I bet Chiesa did not expect to happen.
Not at all.
Definitely underestimated Luque's skills. I think we all did in terms of his overall skill ability. And so, Luque is now moving up in the ranks. He now is one of those guys who you could see definitely in the future fighting Kamaru Usman for the title.
Yeah, definitely. I think this is a fight that kind of puts him in the 1 or 2 fights away, or 1 or 2 fight wins away from getting that title shot. Now, let's talk about the other fight here, the bantamweight bout above him that finished right after, that was after Vincent Luque and Chiesa, and that was Jose Aldo and Pedro Munoz. Now, a lot of people who know UFC, even the basics of UFC, know that Jose Aldo has dropped into the bantamweight division, and they know Jose Aldo from, Conor McGregor kind of. That was one of his many crowning moments, is the 6-second knockout of Jose Aldo. The one punch got him. And Aldo has really turned back the clock. I mean, he dominated this fight. I mean, he hit 51% of his strikes, almost all of his strikes. In fact, all of his strikes were considered significant strikes. He hit 51%, 114 out of 223. I mean, this was a standard fight. I thought he was defensive. I thought his movement was strong. He looked lively. He looked fit. And to see Jose Aldo kind of succeeding in a new weight class like this is everything he hoped and wanted for it. And I think this is, along with Luque, I think this is definitely a fight where we could see him starting to kind of move up the ranks and see if he can go after a title in the bantamweight division. And the bantamweight division is looking for a face since I believe Cejudo has retired. They're still looking for a face. I mean, you've got
well, the bantamweight division is absolutely stacked right now.
Yes, it is very top heavy. It's very stacked deep. But go ahead.
The fact that Aljamain Sterling is a champion, I'm not a fan of. In fact, I hate Aljamain Sterling. But just the fact that he's champion doesn't really legitimize the belt. But it's still stacked. Peter Yan is going to fight Aljamain Sterling. He's probably going to blow him out of the water. But Jose Aldo has definitely put himself in that upper echelon of the division. I think he called out TJ Dillashaw for his next fight. Who
he did,
so TJ just beat Corey Sandhagen, who's the number 2 bantamweight. But TJ is still out with a leg injury from that fight. So who knows who Jose is going to fight. I would like to see Dominic Cruz fight him. Fun fact, actually, Jose Aldo broke his personal significant strike record in this fight against Pedro Munoz, even though Jose Aldo has fought in main event 5-round fights. This fight in particular was a 3-round fight, and he still beat that record. Just goes to show how
much, like 15 too.
Exactly. Yeah, he blew his own personal record out of the water. So it goes to show how much Jose has revitalized his career ever since he lost his featherweight championship and ever since moving down to bantamweight.
Yeah, so now there's two more fights I want to talk about here, and those were on the early prelims, or sorry, not the early prelims, the regular prelims, and I know not many people watch too many of these, but the Bobby Green versus the Rafael Fajiv, and the Alonzo Menafield versus Ed Herman. Now the Alonzo Menafield versus Ed Herman, this will be quick here, but Menafield was a -240 favorite. He won by unanimous decision, but I just want to give props to Ed Herman. Dude was 40 and getting his ass beat. I mean, I don't know, one, how his leg didn't break, two, how he wasn't knocked out, but he hung in there as a 40-year-old against Alonzo Menafield, who's a big up-and-coming, powerful, light heavyweight. I mean, these guys are probably the best in terms of power, strength, and all around fighting. Them in the middleweights, I think they're able to do everything when it comes to grappling and power all mixed into one. And 40-year-old, you don't hear of 40-year-old UFC fighters, if at all, anymore. Maybe one. But Ed Herman hung in there, and yeah, he got took the loss, but I get full props to him. But let's talk about the fight of the night in Bobby Green versus Rafael Fajiv. And Fajiv fought a great fight, but I thought it was close throughout. I mean, it was powerful. I mean, there was no takedowns. It was stand up, punch, hit in the face. Who's got better technique boxing wise? Who's got better kickboxing stats? This was a massively entertaining fight. And for a lot of people, I think that's exactly what the UFC wanted, because this is the prelim main event, still 3 rounds, but this is the fight where a lot of people are like, okay, the main event's about to start. Let me tune into the main prelim, because these guys are usually some known people, and Bobby Green is definitely a known person, but Fajiv is starting to make a name for himself. I could see him getting on some pay-per-view cards.
Yeah, Fajiv. I think that there's a lot of hype around Fajiv, especially in the books, in the bookies. So coming in, we all thought Fajiv was going to dominate, but Bobby Green really showed his technical defense in the striking game. Fajiv is known for his striking. Bobby Green was able to hang in there. He got him to tire out. In the 3rd round, Fajiv looked noticeably tired.
Yes.
Bobby Green took advantage of that. And it's interesting because Bobby is such an unorthodox fighter, because he keeps his hands low. So when you have your hands low like that, it's hard for the other fighter, for the opponent, to really gauge where he's going to strike, because his hands are so low. And you think that, his hands are low, you can get him in, you can just headhunt. But Bobby Green's technical defense, his head movement is so strong. Fajiv was able to get him a few times, but Bobby Green was able to hang in there. And he's got a chin on him, man. He has got a real chin on him. It was the fight of the night. They both got $50,000 performance bonuses. They're really good friends now. If you saw on social media, they met up afterwards and they were all hugging and laughing. But the fight was fun in itself, because they were trash talking in the octagon, and which is one of the most entertaining fights that I've seen in a while. So overall, it was just a great fight, great way to end the prelims and move over to the main event, which we already talked about. But overall, it was my favorite fight of the night.
Yeah, I think it won fight of the night for a reason. I think it was exactly and everything the UFC could have wanted. But we're still waiting on a little bit more UFC. Obviously, we still want to. The UFC still wants to see John Jones versus Francis Ngannou. We have Kamaru Usman versus Colby Covington coming up for the welterweight title. But look, I think the UFC kind of needed an event like this. I think they wish Derek Lewis did a little better. I mean, they built this event around him in his hometown of Houston, and he really just did not have a good fight. I mean, he looked very uptight. But moving forward from the UFC here, we'll preview more of those when they come out. We want to talk here a little bit of baseball here before we get into our way too early NFL predictions. But I want to talk to Adam here about his biggest surprise of the MLB season. That's not the San Francisco Giants this year, as well as we're going to go over some AL MVP, NL MVP, as well as Cy Youngs. But Adam, give me your biggest surprise of the MLB this season. That's not the San Francisco Giants.
I'm going to go with the Milwaukee Brewers.
Really?
Milwaukee Brewers have had a fantastic season so far. Last year they were 29-31 in the regular season. They didn't make the playoffs. This year, they have one of the best records in the game. There's they're 68-46. And it's been all about their pitching. It sucks that Christian Yelich has had such a disappointing season. Because the Brewers, they really want him to get back in the groove, especially when it comes down to the postseason this year. But
he's just been abysmal.
It's been tough to watch. I like Christian Yelich too, and I don't know what's wrong with him. I really don't.
He had that torn ACL. I mean, he's hitting 226 with 6 homers, 29 RBIs. I mean, what happened to Belly and Yelly? I mean, Bellinger has been known to kind of have
Cody Bellinger, another guy.
But I mean, Yelich was a 40 home run, 40 steal guy, and Yelich has 6 homers and 7 steals this year. I mean, he's getting on base at a good clip at 372, but why isn't he hitting 280, 290, 300 like he was in years past? But go ahead and continue.
Exactly. No, but fortunately for the Milwaukee Brewers, what's been carrying them is their pitching. Their starting pitching has been absolutely insane. Brandon Woodruff, Freddie Peralta, and Corbin Burns. Their ERAs are in the top of the NL, top 10, I believe, in the NL, all of them.
Yep.
So these guys are carrying the Brewers to most likely an easy division win. NL Central Division win when it comes down to the regular season ending. So that's my biggest surprise. They still have their offense is still pretty deep despite Yelich. They have they got Willy Adames, which I think was a huge acquisition for them at shortstop.
He's been great since coming over there from the Rays.
Exactly. Yeah, he's been great. So I think the Brewers are going to be a formidable opponent for anyone who plays them in the postseason, especially if their opponents from the NL East. No one's winning anything in the postseason from the NL East. But that's my biggest surprise. Max, what is yours? I got it.
Well, my biggest surprise, honestly, when looking at this is honestly the San Diego Padres. I feel like they're having a good season and they made these moves to be so good, but they just kind of haven't followed through. They're having a very strong season, and I do believe they're going to make the playoffs as a wild card spot. I mean, they're 66-49. They're 7 games out of first place behind the Giants. But, I think with the Giants, being where they are is really, kind of helping me with this surprise. But I feel like the Padres, you brought in Blake Snell, you bring in Yu Darvish, and Joe Musgrove has a coming out year. They just kind of haven't really lived up to full expectations. I expected them to kind of fight for the division title, which they still are in a sense, but I feel like they feel a step behind the Dodgers and the Giants. And I don't know if that's injury wise. I mean, Mark Belancen's been very good. He leads the MLB in saves, but he just he gives them up occasionally. How much is he going to be able to do in the postseason? When Tatis comes back, because it sounds like is he going to play it short, the outfield, and is his shoulder going to hold up all the way into the playoffs? I just feel like they've been kind of missing something. It's similar to what the Yankees this year, but they've kind of turned around as of late. But I don't know. I just feel like the Padres, there's some missing there. I don't know if it's management. I don't know if it's player, but they just, Machado's having a great year and finally, but Hosmer is having a great year. I don't know. The pitching staff seems very underwhelming for what they did to it in the offseason. But let's move into some of the awards here. Let's start off with the NL, since you're more familiar. Let's start off with the NL MVP. And I know right before we started, you said, I don't know who I'm going to pick. Well, I'm going to put you on the spot here, Adam. Who are you going to pick for NL MVP?
Oh man, it was tough because I was looking at, all the major stats that I look towards when looking at MVP, and it was WAR, OPS, home runs. And I also looked at their teams as well to see if they were actually, contributing, and to see if the teams were doing well. I was going to pick Juan Soto, but the Nationals are just abysmal this year. But, I think I'm going to pick a player who was not an all-star this year and who kind of has been coming up in the last few weeks as an MVP contender, and that's Bryce Harper. The Philadelphia Phillies have been red hot in terms of climbing back in the NL East standings, and they're in first place right now. Yep. So the fact that they're in first place after the Mets have been in first place for so long throughout the regular season, that's no large part to Bryce Harper. Bryce Harper is having a great year, and I've been one of those guys who was a Bryce Harper hater. I thought he's extremely.
Well, you thought he was going to the Giants, I'm guessing.
Well, I wouldn't have cared if he went on the Giants. Honestly, I that's how much I kind of don't like him. But he has, he has revitalized himself. I thought he was extremely overrated, but this year he's proven himself to be a worthy MVP candidate, batting 299, 20 home runs, 45 RBIs. We'll see what he does this month and in September, but that's my NL MVP. Max, I'm hoping that maybe you have a different one, or maybe you're jumping on the Bryce Harper bandwagon.
So I do have a couple. I don't have a set in stone one, but Bryce Harper right now, I would say is kind of my leading candidate, unless Tatis comes back and really tears it up. My only gripe with Harper is he's got 20 homers, only 45 RBIs for a guy that's
Yeah.
supposed to be most valuable player and providing for his team. 45 RBIs does not scream like he's making an impact. Now I think he's really done a good job after this, but I mean, you look at his his OPS, on baseball slugging, it's 976. 411 of those points is on base. The dude's batting 300 and getting on base almost 40% of the time he hits, which is awesome. Obviously, you talked about Juan Soto. I think the guy that might really come in, depending on if his team makes the playoffs or not, is last year's NL MVP, and that's Freddie Freeman. Freddie Freeman has really turned his season around after a bad first month. He's got 24 homers, 63 ribbies. He's batting 292, 391 on base, and Freddie Freeman's been awesome. And I think as another dark horse candidate for me is unfortunately Manny Machado. I mean, he's leading the NL in RBIs with 78 and only 21 home runs, batting 287. He a lot like Harper, a lot of people think he's overrated, overpaid, things like that because of those. They were the first two guys to sign those $300 million contracts. But finally, this season, Machado did a little bit last year, but this season, both Machado and Harper are really starting to live up to those expectations. And for the Phillies who just took first place, I mean, this is the time for Harper to start running away with the MVP. I think when it comes down to it, it's either going to be Freeman, Tatis, if he returns and he returns with impact, or Manny Machado. So on my last dark horse candidate, and I'll move into NL Cy Young because it's the same person, is Walker Buehler. And I think he has a chance to possibly win NL MVP and NL Cy Young, which is what Jacob deGrom was on pace for, but his injuries have derailed his season, which sucks because it's one of the best seasons in history ever in the history of the MLB. But Walker Buehler has been outstanding this season. I mean, he leads the MLB in ERA among qualified pitchers with 2.13. He's pitched 150 innings roughly. He's only walked 38 batters, struck out 152. I mean, he allows less than a base runner on per game. He's been awesome. He's 12-2 in 23 games started and has looked better and better every month. I think you could look at guys like Kevin Gausman and maybe Max Scherzer coming in to maybe take over that NL Cy Young, but I just feel like Walker Buehler is on the best team right now in the NL. That's not the San Francisco Giants. And I hate to say this, Adam. I don't think the Giants are holding on to first place. I think the trades that the Dodgers made, I think the Giants get home field. I think they do play the Padres in the wild card game. I don't see that happening. But I think it's going to be close. You never know. But I do think Walker Buehler is going to win the Cy Young for the NL. Who's your NL Cy Young?
Same guy. You took the words right out of my mouth. Walker Buehler has been insane this year. It's so unfortunate that Jacob deGrom has been riddled with injuries this year. But Walker Buehler, he's a giant killer. The Giants cannot hit this guy. And that's what scares me. But Buehler, overall, you read his stats, and I think it's very important that he's been doing this well in terms of Clayton Kershaw being hurt this year as well. So I think Buehler has been carrying this rotation. The acquisition of Scherzer and Trey Turner obviously scare me. But I kind of remind myself of the 2012 year where the LA Dodgers got Adrian Gonzalez, Hanley Ramirez. I'm missing another piece that they got, but they got, millions of dollars worth of players, and they crap the bag, and the Giants ended up winning the World Series that year. They didn't even make the playoffs that year. So I'm hoping that's what happens this year. I don't know if that's going to happen. The Dodgers are obviously going to make the playoffs this year, no doubt in my mind. But they're going to play in the wild card for sure. Walker Buehler is my NL Cy Young, possibly NL MVP if Bryce Harper slows down for the next couple months. It's really, for me at least, it's not that big of a question. It's Walker Buehler all the way.
Yeah, I think those are good picks. Let's move on here to the AL, and I think it's going to be a little bit different. I think we've got a few horses in the race. I mean, if Garrett Cole comes back and is strong, he could win AL Cy Young. We'll start with Cy Young here, then we'll go to MVP. Chris Bassett's obviously in there. We could look at somebody like a Robbie Ray, who's been very good. But there's a couple guys in the AL that have been really good. Hyun-Jin Ryu's been very good as well. The AL Cy Young race, I think, is a little bit tighter. I mean, Kyle Gibson, who's just traded to Philly, though. I mean, it's going to be interesting. Jose Barrios is in Toronto now. I don't see a runaway winner right now for the AL Cy Young. I mean, I mean, you can't really forget about Lance Lynn and Carlos Rodon, but Rodon just went on the IL. Can Lance Lynn continue this? It's going to be, it's a little, look, I don't know. I think right now, if I were to bet, my betting favorite right now would be Lance Lynn. However, I don't know if I can see him holding on to that.
Yep, I have Lance Lynn as my Cy Young award winner, at least for now. He's been having a great season. He is not known for having this type of season, so who knows how the MLB writers will vote coming into the end of the year. But just to read some of the stats, he's 10-3 with a 2.04 ERA, which leads all American League pitchers. 12 quality starts. His WAR is 4.3, which is up in the upper echelon amongst AL pitchers as well. So he's been that guy in a very deep Chicago White Sox rotation. He's been their number one, and that's a lot. That's saying a lot in terms of the Chicago White Sox starting rotation. So Lance Lynn is my pick for AL Cy Young Award. I don't know. You kind of mentioned a lot of different names. I don't know if you have a set name for your pick.
I'd say my favorite right now is Lance Lynn, but you just can't forget about Garrett Cole when he comes back from the COVID list, and you can't forget about somebody like Ryu getting hot for Toronto down the stretch as well. I do see Lance Lynn continuing this strong season, but I feel like you said, that the writers might vote against him because he's never been this good before. Somebody like Rodon, I feel like might win it, even if he has technically a worse statistical season over Lynn, just because he's kind of, he's got the no hitter. He's flirted with a few no hitters this year. But I don't know. I feel like he's been stellar, but I feel like he just hasn't, I don't know how to explain it. I just feel like he just hasn't really made enough of a name of himself this year to kind of be that over the top guy. And I don't know
maybe it's in part with the media. I don't know. Maybe it's in part with the media not really covering his year that well, because I don't know. You check, MLB, social media, you check, everyone else. Lance Lynn is, never mentioned at all, and yet his season has been so great. So I don't know. Maybe it's just the fans just. There's not much hype around him, and understandably so. He's not that much of a big name. He's known for being on the Cardinals, and but I just I recently found out that he was on the White Sox just because of how good of a year he's having. And that goes to show my great MLB expertise outside of the San Francisco Giants. But
if you're doing not that it matters, it's going to matter that every sport now.
Exactly. But you mentioned the Blue Jays with Ryu. I'm going to stick with the Blue Jays for my AL MVP as well. I'm going to go to Vladimir Guerrero Jr., who's been having a monster year. I think, there was a lot of hype when he was being brought up to the MLB, but I didn't expect him to be this good, this fast, especially with the kind of rookie year he had. I thought he would have a few more years of bad, 270, maybe 28, 25 home runs, 70 RBIs. But this year has been absolutely crazy for him. And it's been between Shohei and Vladimir Guerrero Jr. in terms of the MVP race. But for me, it's a no-brainer. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has just been fantastic, batting .314, 35 home runs, 88 RBIs, a 5 WAR. This guy is pretty much keeping the Blue Jays in the wild card standings and in the AL East standings. They still got a shot to win the AL East. I don't know if it's going to happen. The Tampa Bay Rays are on another hot streak, but we'll see. We'll see if Vladimir Guerrero can carry them. But that's my AL MVP pick.
Definitely. And I'd agree with you there. I think Ohtani has really slowed down. And what's interesting is we've kind of lost kind of the headlines of Ohtani. We kind of hear about him every now and again. It used to be every day. Yeah, Ohtani's still leading the MLB in home runs, and he's second in RBIs third in RBIs to Rafael Devers and Vlad Guerrero. But I really think Vlad Guerrero Jr. finally just got the hype. I think going back to Toronto, nothing but help him. I think his team loves him. I think that team is great. I'm going to be a little surprised to see what happens with Marcus Semien on Toronto next season. He is a free agent again. I would expect him to re-sign, but who knows where he'll go. I mean, he left the A's, but Vladimir Guerrero Jr., I mean, he's been stellar hitting wise. I mean, he's a valuable player. I mean, if you want to look at specifically the real definition of most valuable player, Ohtani does more for the Angels than Guerrero does for the Blue Jays, but I don't believe that's how the writers would vote. That's not how I would vote. Vladimir Guerrero Jr. has been more consistently good. Ohtani's on the mound is decent, not great, still an all-star level, and hitting wise, he's been very good. I mean, he's got 16 stolen bases, Ohtani does, but he's been caught 7 times. And look, I just feel like Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is having that type of season where he is a step above everybody, and that includes Shohei Ohtani. So I agree with you. I would go Vladimir Guerrero Jr. as an MVP. I think he really, I think the hype kind of got to him. I think people were expecting a lot, so he kind of felt the weight of the world on him. And that was, if do you remember his debut, Adam? There was a sellout crowd in Toronto. There were flashes every instant. It was awesome to watch. But the dude kind of wasn't good for 2 years because he was like, I have to be good right away. And I think the new mentality, the new regime of Toronto to kind of reset and rekindle and bring this young core in with Bo Bichette, as well as now Semien, Ryu's there, Robbie Ray, and Guerrero Jr. leading the pack. I think he has enough support around him to feel like he doesn't have to do everything. So everything's just coming natural. So yes, I would agree with you. I think Vladimir Guerrero Jr. is our AL MVP. And if there's any last thoughts, any last storylines of the MLB, give them to me now, Adam, before we move on to our way too early NFL predictions.
Well, I kind of did some self-reflection over the last podcast, and I kind of, saw how I was talking, and I kind of realized that I'm a bit of a homer when it comes to my team.
Only a little bit.
I kind of realized that I may be a little biased in favor of my San Francisco Giants.
Hey, you love your team, right? You can't be mad at that. Somebody loves their team.
I do love my team. I realized that I was a bit of a homer, being a little bit biased, but I ain't going to stop. I'm going to keep riding that horse. Every other MLB team better watch out for the San Francisco Giants, especially in the postseason. We got the bullpen. We got Brandon Belt back. We got Chris Bryant. We're going to shock the world this year.
It's an odd year. It's a new decade and an odd year.
It's a new year. It's a new decade. 2021 World Series, Fall Classic, San Francisco Giants, world champions. Do not call my rant a jinx. I'm speaking it into existence. I'm speaking into existence. You better watch your back, Dodgers. You better watch your back, Padres. You better watch your back, every other team, even in the AL, because we're making the World Series and we're going to win it. Astros, you better not bang your trash cans in San Francisco, because we are going to take you down.
Somebody write it down. Somebody get it down. And people on the bench, people listening, you heard it here first. Adam Jew is being a homer, and he is not ashamed. And look, if game one of the World Series is at home for the Giants, are you going to spend however much money to go? Are you going to write in theory, are you going to write a blank check to buy tickets to go to that game?
Absolutely. My friends back in Texas, they're big Astros fans. So if it's an Astros World Series, Astros Giants World Series,
you're going to every game.
They already told me that they're flying over to San Francisco, and we're going to all the games.
It's a done deal. If it's in Houston, are you going to go to Houston, stay with them?
Well, let's see if I have a job by the end of the month this year.
I hope everybody's vaccinated, and if that's the case, man.
And if everyone's vaccinated, I'm vaccinated, Pfizer, Lord and Savior. But we'll see. We'll see. I can't wait.
Yeah, definitely. It's going to be a lot of fun. And you know what else is going to be a lot of fun? We're kind of in the dog days of summer here. We're pushing for things. We're stretching for things to talk about. But look, NFL season, preseason starts this weekend. And if you remember, Adam, there's 17 weeks or 18 weeks in the regular season this year. Meaning there's only 3 preseason games, 17 games, 18 weeks. So we are officially about 3 weeks away from the NFL season starting. I have my fantasy football drafts coming up. I have a draft to be a commissioner for. Speaking of which, I am in talks with my league. We're going to try and broadcast our draft one night onto here while I'll record it and put it up. And it'll be the Shiva. I don't know if you've ever seen the league. We call our league Shiva Kavimi Sova Conundrum from the league TV show. That is our league name because a bunch of us in the league can relate to people in that show. But I
love that show.
It's a great show, and it's improv. Did you know that? It's an improv show.
I didn't know that.
There's some scripted parts, but they say, all right, here's the scene. Do it however you want. And it's awesome when they get the NFL stars on there. But let's get into our predictions here. Look, Adam, I don't know if you know this. I'm a New York Jets fan, and I'm forever disappointed. So my favorite team is the Jets, and my least favorite team is the Jets. So, look, do I think they're going to be good this year? No. Do I think they're going to be better this year? Yes. Do I think they're going to make the playoffs? No shot. Absolutely no shot. Are you I gather you're a Niners fan in San Francisco, born and raised. Let's talk about the Niners. Let's talk about Trey Lance, Jimmy G being there. Obviously, Nick Bosa not vaccinated, who we just talked about. Just go get Pfizer's down the street. You could probably get it in the parking lot of Levi's Stadium for matter. And then I want to talk about some of the new rules in the NFL as well as what we're going to do with standing. But give me your thoughts, your readings on the San Francisco 49ers this year. Fully healthy to the most extent and ready to roll.
Yeah, it's there's a lot of question marks for the 49ers. Kyle Shanahan has been adamant about saying that Jimmy G is the day one starting quarterback. But I've also seen a lot of tweets. I've also seen social media go absolutely buzz for Trey Lance. Trey Lance has been exceeding everyone's expectations. He's been called a leader. He's been called, he's athletic. He's shown his athleticism. He's shown his arm. His arm is compared to Josh Allen in terms of his deep ball. So there's a lot of hype around Trey Lance. We'll see if Jimmy G if Garoppolo is the day one quarterback and he's regular season quarterback and the Niners are winning. I don't see Trey Lance touching the field at all. They're going to ride with Jimmy G, especially with that large contract. They pretty much are obligated to. But if they stay healthy, the big question is surrounding, of course, Garoppolo, the wide receivers, our defense, Dee Ford, Nick Bosa. Let's see if they can stay healthy. Football is all about health, especially if your team's good. And I'm very excited about this year. I'm excited to see what they can do. I'm also a little scared. The Seattle Seahawks, Russell Wilson. As long as Russell Wilson is there, the Seahawks are always going to be Super Bowl contenders. Exactly. And the Rams got a lot better this offseason with Matthews. I used to dismiss the Rams because of Jared Goff. But now that Goff is gone and Matthew Stafford, a bona fide veteran quarterback, a respected quarterback is in that system now, I'm a little concerned about the Rams, a little more concerned about the Rams than the Seattle Seahawks.
I think, well, if you look at that right now, I think the Rams have a better defense than the Seahawks. And then you can't count out the Arizona Cardinals.
Exactly.
Kyler Murray's there. DeAndre Hopkins might be there. And they added JJ Watt, who's not the same player. He's not the same player, but he's still an impact player. You still got to watch him. He's still effective. They've got Budda Baker back on the DN. I mean, look, the Cardinals could make a push here. I thought they were going to make the playoffs last year, but they didn't. This NFC West is going to be stacked. I think all four teams, if there's ever a chance, if the rules were ever changed to allow four teams in division to make a playoffs, this would be the division. I mean, you can make a case for every single one of these teams to be Super Bowl contenders. Now, I do think in the order, I think it goes Rams, Niners, Cardinals, Seahawks, and I think the Seahawks defense is what hinders them. But I do see the Rams and the Niners both getting into the playoffs this year. I think the Cardinals just miss out as well. And the Seahawks, I feel like they might finish as like a 9-7 record. But I feel like they're just kind of missing a piece on defense here. But like you said about the Niners, Jimmy G, Trey Lance is there, Kyle Shanahan's there. I'm interested to see how the defense does this year without Robert Saleh as the coordinator. I think they're going to be fine. They got their pieces back. Obviously, I'm a little bit more interested to see how the D-line recovers since their injuries and how the secondary and the cornerbacks especially kind of improve and have their season with Richard Sherman departing and now not coming back based off what's going on in his circumstances. But look, Adam, in order for the Niners to succeed and for every other team to succeed, like you said, they need to stay healthy. And for the Niners, the team most injured the last 3 years has been the San Francisco 49ers. I mean, they had the year where they made the Super Bowl and they still were getting hurt. Look, I think they have a chance to win the NFC and go to the Super Bowl. I think everybody in the NFC still has to go through the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, unfortunately. And I know it sucks because Tom Brady's there. Welcome to my life. He's been with me in the AFC East for too long. Take him away. Have fun with him. He's all your property now until we get to the Super Bowl, which won't happen because I'm a Jets fan and the Jets stink. But look,
so before we go on to the NFL predictions, I want to kind of get your thoughts on Zach Wilson and get your thoughts on the overall selecting him in the second overall, and get your thoughts on your expectations for him this year.
Well, so my expectations need to be tempered. I don't think he's going to be a star. I mean, struggling a lot in training camp here. It wasn't a good start already with the contract talks. And I don't know how he didn't have a dotted line just waiting for Trey Lance to sign. And why, once he did, why didn't he just sign right away? It took a whole another week and he missed a couple of days of training camp because of it. Look, he's struggling a lot in camp. He's learning a whole new offense. I think they just need to simplify it a little bit. I think he's forcing the issue a little bit. I do think the Jets defense has improved massively. The Jets defense wasn't horrible last year. Wasn't good at all. They were bad, but they weren't horrendous like they normally are. And they've added pieces. Obviously they've got a great D line. Their secondary still needs a little bit of work. But they added some pieces and Robert Saleh bringing in probably a better system. And you look at what he did. I mean, that Niners defense was okay when Salah came in and turned it up to another level and built them up to what they are when they get the pieces. And I think we could see that kind of okay, but turn up to another level defense from the Jets this year. I think, you know, Coach Knapp, who passed away, you know, rest in peace, because right here in San Ramon, is known as a quarterback whisperer. I think losing him definitely will affect the quarterbacks. And the other thing with Zach Wilson is the Jets don't have a quarterback on the roster who's played a single NFL snap in the regular season.
Wow, I didn't know that.
No, none, absolutely none.
That's insane.
So, you know, bring in I don't want to say Nick Foles, but bring in some guy with experience. I don't know. Obviously, Josh McCown's
Nick Foles, go ahead, say it. Nick Foles, man. I mean,
I really don't want Big Dick Nick. I'm gonna say it. I don't want him. You know, I feel like he's gonna be like, oh, should we start Nick Foles? No, Zach Wilson's the guy. Play him. He's the guy. Make sure he doesn't get hurt. But you need somebody with some experience, somebody who can help coach him. And I think they might add that. I don't know who it will be or who's out there. But, you know, I think people need to he's number 2 overall pick, but he's kind of the number 2 overall pick. You know, if he flopped, I'm like, well, they should have taken Justin Fields or they should have taken Trey Lance. Why did they take Zach Wilson? Look, every team has their guy. And if this was Zach Wilson, the guy, you got to give him a chance. More than one season is not what it's going to take. I mean, it's not a Patrick Mahomes situation. I mean, maybe bring in Alex Smith as a backup. Who knows if he can play or if he wants to play because of his leg. But look, I think they've done a good job surrounding him with offensive line. Obviously, their pick from USC this year, Quinnen Williams last year, not Quinnen Williams. I'm blanking on his name, and he was so good last year for the Jets. He just wasn't healthy, but he blocks everything. I mean, he doesn't let anybody pass. I'm pulling up the roster right now really quickly. I do apologize.
But I think Quinn Williams, the D lineman Williams from Alabama.
He's the D lineman. Yeah, he's
getting
a
better.
Stud. And it's Mekhi Becton is the one who I'm talking about. Mekhi Becton does not let anybody pass. I mean, he when he was healthy, I think he's young and a little bit out of shape. When he was healthy, I mean, nobody was there. Nobody was getting by him. And then you bring in also, you draft Elijah Vera Tucker to play next to him on the other side. You've got George Fant in there now as well. I mean, they're going to be good. I mean, on defense, Sheldon Rankins, you bring him in, Quinnen Williams, CJ Mosley's back. We'll see what he can do. And we'll see what they can do, with secondary. Marcus May to kind of playing with him like they did Jamal Adams. I mean, to pay the guy. The guy was the best free safety in the league last year in coverage. I mean, he was awesome. But you look at the way the Jets drafted this year and how they drafted for Sam Darnold. They gave Zach Wilson options, right? What did Darnold have? Robbie Anderson when he was a rookie, who they're paired up now together in Carolina. I think that's gonna be an awesome pairing. But you look at what they did now. I mean, they bring in Tevin Coleman. I think that's the Robert Saleh special right there. Corey Davis is an established top wideout. He's a good wideout. He can be a number 1 guy. Keelan Cole has those random big games. And Jamison Crowder can be your slot. I would see how much they use him this year. And then you draft Elijah Moore, who has been awesome in camp. And I mean, awesome. And then you can't forget about who they drafted last year in the second round, Denzel Mims. Now he's having a rough camp. Let's see if he stays. There's no reason to give up on him, especially with Jamison Crowder, who restructured his contract to be done at the end of this season to be a free agent. So they've brought pieces around him. They drafted the Michael Carters, one of them being a running back. Look, the Jets, I think they need to be a 6 or 7 win team for them to feel like they made an improvement. If they're a 5-win team, I'm okay with it, depending on who they beat and who they lose to. But look, I think the Jets need to kind of go in with minimal to no expectations. I think the best case scenario for them is to be able to just play football. And I feel like with the Giants kind of being on the up and up with their defense and Danny Dimes there, Daniel Jones, their quarterback, kind of starting there. Obviously, Saquon Barkley will be returning. I'm hoping they take a lot of the New York headlines, because I know they won't, because Zach Wilson was the number 2 overall pick and it's the Jets and people love picking on him. But I'm hoping the Jets kind of become that kind of quiet team that, they have a nice season, including Zach Wilson. I think he's going to have a rough start to his career. I really do. But I think as the season goes on, I really hope he improves. But that is my thought on the Jets as a whole and Zach Wilson. I know I went a little further. You were asking about Zach Wilson, but look, I think Zach Wilson is not the be all end all with the Jets. I mean, their defense looks very good. Carl Lawson's there. Obviously, I mentioned Sheldon Rankins, Vinny Curry. Look, I mean, Bless Austin, Gerard Davis. I mean, this team is set up to be successful on defense. And
with Robert Saleh there, it's going to be better,
right? And that's you expect. And the Jets kind of keep continuing going in this pattern of rah coach to quiet level. Obviously, Adam Gase was a very quiet level, and before him was what's his face? Defensive coordinator right now from Tampa Bay. I forget his name. He was the Jets head coach, but before him was Rex Ryan. And Rex Ryan was a rah guy, and they went quiet, didn't work. And now they're going to rah. And I think just knowing the mentality, the culture that Robert Saleh is bringing in, he knows every player's name, which wasn't the case before. He's got nicknames. He says, "What's up?" He has fun with it. It's not just football. It's a team becoming together. And that's the thing that the Jets were trying to do when they started to establish last year. The players did. I don't know if it was coming from the coaches, but one thing you saw when the Jets were succeeding, they were doing it as a team, and they were having fun with it too. Even the guys who were, maybe not having the best of seasons, his teammates were bringing them up, they came together. And I think that's something that Robert Saleh can continue to develop and make it a whole thing rather than just a player thing.
Exactly. And that's why I'm rooting for the Jets. That Robert Saleh for the next 5 years is going to be with them. And
if
I
he
wish him
makes it
nothing
that
but the
far.
best.
It's the
If
Jets.
he makes it that far.
It's the
But,
Jets. So
it's the Jets.
2
I
years
forgot
is
it's
pretty
the
much all
Jets.
he's got guaranteed.
That's
I
true.
hope he goes to 5, and I think he will, but you never know. On paper, this is the best coach the Jets have ever had. And he's never coached a head coach game in the NFL yet, ever.
Yeah.
And he's right now considered the best on paper, not the best, one of the best. Remember, we had Bill Belichick for a day. He retired on a napkin. Do you know that story about Bill Belichick?
I don't.
So
No.
Bill Belichick was hired as the Jets coach, and I believe 1 or 2 days later, he retired by writing on a napkin, "I'm quitting as head coach of the New York Jets," and then gave it to management, and he quit. Bill Belichick was the New York Jets coach and quit via napkin.
Wow. I mean, I guess that's better than just jumping on your desk and declaring that you're retiring, I guess. I don't know.
Or
I don't know
declaring
which one I
bankruptcy
would-
in the Michael Scott
Yeah.
style. But give me some predictions of standings, top players, standouts. How did the Cowboys do? Does Mahomes have a better year in terms of health as well as his offensive line? What happens in Denver? What happens in the AFC South? Is there Deshaun Watson news? Give me your headlines. What's catching your eye here of this NFL season?
Well, I think the most recent news that caught my eye was the mega massive extension that the Buffalo Bills gave Josh Allen this offseason. And, I am riding high on Josh Allen. I'm riding high on the Buffalo Bills. I think they're gonna take their division. And they're definitely Super Bowl contenders. The Chiefs obviously are there, but I think it's ultimately going to be the Chiefs versus the Bills. Obviously, the Ravens are in the mix. The Browns are in the mix. The AFC is pretty stacked in terms of talent this year. So, but in terms of who I see making it very far into the postseason, it's going to be the Chiefs and the Bills. The Bills, obviously led by Josh Allen, they got a solid defense. They got a wide receiving core that's going to help out Josh Allen immensely. Stephon Diggs. We'll see what happens with what's his name, Cole Beasley. We'll see if he can get vaccinated or not. We'll see about that.
Same with Lamar Jackson. I mean, what he said yesterday
same with Lamar,
ridiculous. Yeah. I mean, I'll pull it up here while you talk here, but I sent a tweet to my trainer about what Lamar Jackson did, who's in COVID protocol again, like he was last year. And his response to not getting vaccinated was this. Here he goes. Says Lamar Jackson on why he won't get vaccinated. This is from Jamison Hensley, a reporter on Twitter. Says, quote, "I feel it's a personal decision. I'm just going to keep my feelings to my family and myself. I'm focused on getting better right now. I can't dwell on that right now, how everybody else feels." Well, if you're focused on getting better, one way to do that is to get vaccinated. That's just me, but continue.
Yeah, we're not going to get political on this
well,
show.
The vaccine shouldn't be political, but continue.
No, exactly. But
not that matters.
Not that it matters. But if you want to play all 17 games and not get sick and not get COVID
and not have your team forfeit
and not have your team forfeit, and not get paid, vaccination is not a bad option. Anyways. The Bills, I think, are my team in terms of the AFC that I'm rooting for, because I hate the Chiefs after they beat the 49ers. I hate them, but I respect them so much.
Good. I accept that answer.
Because Patrick Mahomes is there. But the Bills, I'm riding high on them. The only weakness they have, maybe potentially, is their running back position. Devin Singletary, is a solid running back, but he's not, Zach Moss. They're not an end-all be-all running back. So. But it helps to have a star quarterback on that team. So that's my pick.
Who can run like a running back,
and who can run like a running back, who's huge too, and can just bulldoze through the line.
And talking about Josh Allen here on the Bills, I mean, he signed a $258 million contract with $150 million guaranteed. That's insane.
That's unheard of.
It's a 6-year contract. I mean, that's insane. Look, he's their guy. They went for it, and you remember how bad he was year one, and people were like, "Oh, he's a bust." No, like. I don't think Zach Wilson's gonna be that good, but give him time, right? Give him time.
Exactly.
These guys are young players.
It just took 3 years. It just took 3 years. And, Josh Allen is now one of the best quarterbacks in the NFL.
Yeah, I put him above Lamar Jackson. I think I put him in top 3. I definitely think he is a top guy. I think you go obviously Mahomes 1, and we'll see where some other people. I think you could even put him in top 2, because of Brady. He's a good quarterback and win his team's games, but he's not that talent level. I think talent level, he's right behind Patrick Mahomes, and Aaron Rodgers is in there as well. Still, I mean, even though he's reigning MVP for a reason. But talking about here, let's move forward here to more. Let's talk about the other team, the Las Vegas Raiders. I mean, do you see Justin Herbert in the AFC West or Derek Carr possibly? Let's move on to that division, I guess, really, rather than just the Raiders. Yeah. The AFC West, I mean, it's the Chiefs. But Justin Herbert had a great season last year after getting in randomly against the Chiefs and giving them all they got. What do you see coming out of that division? And then before we finish here, I want to quickly talk about the AFC North. So go ahead and give me those 2 division talks for me.
Yeah, the Chargers, they have Herbert to build their team around. I don't know if their team is ready yet to compete in the playoffs. Like I said before, the AFC is pretty stacked in terms of talent. But they do have a bright future ahead of them. They have Keenan Allen to help out. They still have Joey Bosa leading the defense. So they have some notable names on their roster.
Austin Eckler still there on the offense.
Austin Eckler, yeah, exactly. The great running back. I think the loss of Melvin Gordon and that whole debacle really hurt the Chargers. But they have some notable names on the team to build around. It's just all about, 1, staying healthy, of course, and 2, getting some more pieces, drafting a few more pieces, and maybe 2 to 3 years from now, maybe even as close as to next year, we could see
they get hot early.
If they get hot, they can get hot. Their offense is great. They have a great offense. The question is their defense, and of course, the Chiefs are going to be in their way for the next 5 years. It's going to be the Chiefs. It's going to be the Chiefs. But the Chargers have a bright future. They could be a definite wildcard team in the near future.
Yeah, definitely. And I think right now, the NFC is a fun talk right now. We could talk about the NFC East, but I mean, they're a lot to me like the NL East. I mean, I think the football team, the Washington football team, wins that division. Dallas is going to get their headlines, and I don't really want to give them their headlines, at least not on this show, because they're not America's team. No, go away. But I want to talk about the AFC North because we've got some headlines there. Big Ben is back in Pittsburgh. Baker Mayfield in Cleveland is back there. And the Cincinnati Bengals are back and healthy. And obviously the Ravens will be there with Lamar Jackson and that defense. But look, I want to talk about the Bengals. Obviously, we saw a little bit of Joe Burrow last year. I think he was very good when he was there. You look at that offense. I mean, you got to get him a little bit more of an offensive line. I really do. But Joe Burrow's there, quarterback. Joe Mixon's there. And see how good he can be. Tyler Boyd had a breakout last year. AJ Green is gone from wide receiver. T. Higgins had a breakout season last year, and as well as Jamar Chase. Jamar Chase, they bring from LSU, former teammate of Joe Burrow. The defense was good last year. Not great, but give me what you got on the Bengals as well as the rest of the AFC North.
Yeah, whenever Joe Burrow was on the field, it was must-see TV. Joe Burrow has proven himself as a legitimate number 1 overall pick. So in that case, the Bengals are looking good. The biggest question is their O-line. Can they protect Joe Burrow? And I was one of those guys who was for drafting. I forget his name. It's hard to pronounce. Ewell, the Oregon O-lineman. I was for drafting him ahead of Jamar Chase just because the wide receiving core that the Bengals have already is pretty deep. They have T. Higgins, as you said, Tyler Boyd, and leading the wide receiver core. But the Bengals, I don't see it's the AFC North is very stacked, so I don't see the Bengals winning that division or winning,
definitely,
or maybe even making the playoffs. The Ravens, Bengals, and Steelers are all ahead of them in terms of just expectations. And that I want to see the Browns are the team that I am really looking forward
my
to
next
seeing
question for you
this year.
is what do you think the standings of this division is going to turn out as?
It's going to be tough. The Steelers are getting older. They still got Big Ben, but who knows how he's going to do.
The defense, man.
He's the defense. The defense is solid. It always has
TJ
been
Watt's
solid.
there.
And Minka Fitzpatrick.
Yep.
Yeah, but the Ravens and Browns are, I feel, in my opinion, are the favorites to win that division. If Baker Mayfield can stay consistent, that is. So we'll see. He had a breakout year last year, and we'll see if he can carry that to this year. Let's see if that switch is flipped, for the rest of his career, or if that was just a one and done. But that division, like the NFC West, is pretty stacked, and I'm looking forward to seeing who comes out on top.
Yeah, don't forget with the Browns. I mean, they got Chubb and Hunt in the backfield, and then you get Rashard Higgins, who had a good season last year as well, Jarvis Landry, and then they bring in Austin Hooper last season for the tight end. And not to not forget, Odell Beckham Jr. is back. Now, I don't think he's going to be the same player he once was, but look, they're going to be good. I mean, they got Myles Garrett on defense. They bring in Jadeveon Clowney, Malik Jackson's there as well. We'll see what they're going to do in terms of the secondary, which I think was good, but not great. We'll see what they do. I mean, they got Denzel Ward, Greedy Williams is there. Troy Hill is good, but we'll see where they're at. I think it's going to be an interesting season for them. I'd like them to continue to be good. I had fun rooting for the Browns, and I think Baker Mayfield really does need to. I think the best case for him as a person, as he's really kind of toned down a lot of stuff. I think he's grown up a little bit. It reminds me a little bit almost of Cody Garbrandt of the UFC, kind of raw talent, young, feisty, and he's kind of grown up and matured more. And I think not only has that helped his team, but it's helped his career. I think if he stayed the way he was, he does not have a career in the NFL. It reminds me almost of Johnny Manziel Part 2, which is what he was almost compared to in the beginning. But I do think the Ravens do pull out the division, and I do think the Browns get in via wild card here, and I think the Steelers and then obviously the Bengals go fourth. But with a couple minutes here, is there any other NFL storyline you want to discuss? Any football team name predictions? Do the Packers have a good season or not? What happens in the NFC South? Who starts for the Saints? And obviously, I think Carolina would be a fun one to discuss. I think the NFC South would be fun. The Saints, who starts? The Buccaneers, obviously reigning champs. The Panthers with Sam Darnold and McCaffrey back. They got Robbie Anderson and DJ Moore. Give me your last couple of headlines here before we head off.
I think I'm going to make my ultimate super early prediction. I really think in the Super Bowl it's going to be. I hate to say.
He's going Homer again. He's going Homer again. I can feel it.
I can't. No. I even think that the Niners are going to be a wild card team. That's how how realistic I am in terms of the NFL. But I think that it's going to be the Bucks. Chiefs again in the Super Bowl, man. Listen. I know, Tom Brady's 45, but their defense, first of all, they are the first team in NFL history to have all of their players who were on the Super Bowl team return for the following year.
All their starters, yeah.
All their starters, yes. So their defense is absolutely outstanding when it comes to the young defensive core, led by, of course, the linebacker Devin White. But that led with Tom Brady and also on the offensive end, Mike Evans, they just have all the tools necessary to come back and win
Antonio Brown is still there as well.
Exactly. Yeah. Antonio Brown is still there. And, the
Chris
Chiefs
Godwin.
Chris Godwin. And on the AFC side, the Chiefs are still loaded.
And they revamped their offensive line to make sure that Mahomes doesn't have to run for his life every snap.
Exactly. So let's see if Mahomes can stay healthy with that leg injury that he ultimately succumbed to in the Super Bowl.
And so who's your winner now? That's my question for you. Who's your winner?
Listen, I made one early NFL prediction by picking two teams. I cannot pick. I think the Chiefs are going to win. I think the Chiefs are going to come back and win again.
He says I can't, then makes a prediction.
I'm just my head is like that, but they get Clyde Edwards-Helaire back as well. And he's only going to get better. You can't forget about him. You can't forget about the second best tight end in the NFL, right behind George Kittle, Travis Kelce, and of course Tyreek Hill. So the Chiefs have all the necessary offensive tools to win the Super Bowl. And I think they're gonna come back, and it's gonna be a revenge tour for them. So that's my prediction.
My prediction is Jets beat the the Jets beat the football team in the Super Bowl. No, I think it's gonna be the Chiefs in the Super Bowl again, and I think I think the Packers get over the hump here. I really do. I think Aaron Rodgers is gonna come back with.
We'll see what Aaron Rodgers how his head is feeling throughout the regular season. We'll see.
Definitely, Adam. It's been a lot of fun. Thanks for coming on. I really appreciate it. Thanks for joining us. Check out the YouTube channel, Not That It Matters with Max Miller. I hope the next logo change. Keep listening to the Bench Sports. This has been Not That It Matters with Max Miller. And today, Adam